Hello and welcome to another video. This is Chris the Pocket Master here to talk about FightBox's Mortal Kombat Arcade Stick R8. I may go over a few things you are wondering about with this device, but if I do not touch base with anything you are wondering about, please leave it in the comments below. So without further ado, let's get into it. So this arcade stick was advertised that it could plug into the PS3 and PC, which is a good thing because I have a huge catalog of games on my PC and a bunch of PS3 games to where I have to think about getting rid of a few of those games. But anyways, I have a few tests I want to give to this controller. Since it is a stick made for Mortal Kombat games, here are some questions in which I am seeking answers for. Is it good to use for Mortal Kombat games? Can I play other fighting games other than Mortal Kombat games with ease? Is it fun to use in other arcade games? Can I perform commands that require precision? Is it durable? And finally, would I recommend it to you? But before we begin, let's take a look at the FightBox R8 itself. My god, what a giant arcade stick. This shit feels fucking legit, like holy shit. It feels like you are holding something that was built to handle the aggressiveness of the arcade players from the 90s. This giant motherfucker has went to a great home because I like an arcade stick I can hit hard. The joystick feels like one of those Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo arcade sticks. It's very stiff and ready to take a fucking punch. The buttons feel pretty tough to push down too, except for the black buttons on the top. All of the buttons and the sticks click with the exception of those black buttons. I was never a big fan of how Acclaim designed their arcade stick, with the block button being in the center and the run button being to the side. However, after playing the Mortal Kombat games with this thing, it just feels natural. I love the grips under the stick, and I love how the cord is like a printer cable, so if you accidentally fuck up the wire, you can easily replace it with another one. So let's talk about the first thing on this list. How are the Mortal Kombat games on this thing? Well, since I have the first 3 Mortal Kombat games on the PS3, let's try them out. Unfortunately, I'm not too good at the classic Mortal Kombat games, but I will try my best. When I loaded up the first game, I picked the only character I pick in this game, which is Sub-Zero. With this guy, I can do all sorts of moves, and even his fatality move. But I'm used to doing all of that crap on an SNES controller or PlayStation controller. I haven't played Mortal Kombat too much in the arcades, but after a few fights, I got used to where all of my commands were. It totally makes sense for that block button to be in the center because after throwing a few punches or kicks, sometimes I like to follow through with defense. What better place to put the block button than the center? Anyways, doing all of Sub-Zero's commands work very well. I could even perform his fatality move pretty quickly. The stick works well with Mortal Kombat 2 as well. Both the first and second Mortal Kombat are pretty sluggish to me with an actual controller, but the stick helps out tremendously. The games feel very solid with this FightBox. What I mean by solid is that everything is responsive, such as the movements, special moves, normals, and fatalities. After playing through those 2 games with the stick, I do not think I will ever go back to a regular controller. Okay, now I'm going to try Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 with this thing. The combos were something I was very concerned about due to the stiffness of the buttons. But after playing through the game, it was pretty solid. I do have to slam the buttons a bit, but it is a pretty good experience. I could perform pretty much all of my commands with the only character I could beat the game with. Overall, it is a fantastic unit to play the classic games with. You do not even have to map the buttons to the PS3 or anything like that. It is a plug and play ordeal. All the commands are mapped perfectly. Okay, since we're on the topic of Mortal Kombat, let's try a newer title, which is still pretty old, but it is the Mortal Kombat game where I stopped at. It's also my favorite Mortal Kombat game of all time. Mortal Kombat Deception is that game. Now, this game is preserved on my PC with a GameCube emulator. I do have the physical copy of this game as well, and I mainly play it on my PC nowadays. I do have to be careful with how I map the controls, since the GameCube controller is like the worst controller in the fucking world. It almost ruined gaming for me, and it has kind of ruined the way I play Mortal Kombat Deception. But I will try to play this game with this arcade stick we have right here. I have to be honest, I cannot play Mortal Kombat Deception correctly with this stick, but I can't blame it because I cannot play the game with any controller other than the crappy GameCube controller. I can't play any GameCube games with any other controller. I'm sure if you own Mortal Kombat Deception on PS2, you should be able to find a comfortable way to play it with this arcade stick. But if you're like me and played Mortal Kombat Deception on GameCube, you're pretty much fucked. Can I play other fighters with this? The answer to that question is hell yes. It feels very natural playing games like Street Fighter 2. In fact, this is currently the stick I will use for those old fighting games because the joystick feels like the one in the arcades. Playing my classic Neo Geo games was a real treat too. Playing through KOF or Fatal Fury games are a great experience with this. Since I do have MAME, I'm able to map out the controls however I see fit, since it is a pretty universal setup for a lot of arcade games. 2D games are great and all, but games like Tekken feel very natural with this stick. And I love assigning shortcuts in the center, but if you game with this particular arcade stick, you really do not need those shortcuts, but it is optional. Alright, let's talk about if this thing is fun to use in other arcade games. This stick is fantastic to use for beat 'em up games, platforming games, and puzzle games. Arcade sticks aren't generally great to use for racing games, but the stick is decent enough to get by. Like with a game like F-Zero X, I'm surprised how well it works. As you can see right here, I am doing pretty well. I did not map out my R and Z button. I kind of have a map. I think I have R mapped out, but not Z. I'm sure if you map it out correctly, it would be a great experience. But I kind of plugged and played on RetroArch, so it's not really mapped correctly. But I still did have a great experience playing that game. Alright, let's talk about if I could perform commands that require precision. So really, if a stick can function with a game like Street Fighter 2, then the controller is great. However, I will do a few tests with it. I'm going to load up Street Fighter 2 and perform all of Ryu's moves. Lots of people, including me, always wonder how a controller is when doing Shoryuken-esque moves. And I'll tell you, Ryu's specials are all smooth. Here's Hadouken, Hurricane Kick, and Shoryuken. Double half circle moves are pretty seamless too. Now I'm going to pick T-Hawk and perform a few full circle moves, or almost full circles in this particular Street Fighter. I actually broke a few controllers and one arcade stick playing as T-Hawk and Zangief, but the stick handles my hits like a champ. The commands are easy to pull off with this controller. Pushing 2 or 3 buttons at the same time is pretty easy to do. And it is pretty forgiving to someone who struggles hitting multiple buttons at the same time. Now I'm going to try a special move from Art of Fighting 2, and it is pretty easy to do with this arcade stick. As you can see here, I'm performing it during battles, so it's great. Now, is this thing durable? I did say before that the stick and the buttons on this device are stiff. They want you to pound on them, just like you are in the fucking arcade. This thing can take a punch. However, be careful, take care of your arcade sticks, use your best judgment. To me, this stick is very durable, and I fucking hit on this all the damn time. Overall, I do recommend this arcade stick because not only is it great to use for Mortal Kombat games, but it is great to use for other games like Tekken. This controller is freaking awesome to use for Tekken because of the 4-button layout to where there are 2 buttons side by side. It just feels natural to play a game like Tekken on there because if you have those 2 buttons side by side, then you can pull off your throws, you can pull off your 10-hit combos, juggle combos, all kinds of moves in Tekken. It just makes sense to use for that game. I always wondered why they put Tekken inside of a Mortal Kombat cabinet, and the reason was always there. It's because of that controller. It is a Tekken controller. It can be used for Tekken. You can play that game very comfortably. Well, there you have it. That is the Mortal Kombat FightBox R8 arcade stick. If you have any questions about this device, please leave it in the comments below. Anyways guys, thanks for watching. This is Chris the Pocket Master saying good night.